Well, hello and welcome to episode 271 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. And Michaela, there are a couple movies out there when you say drink the movies that should come to mind, I think, automatically. And it's taken us 270 of these to finally get to today's subject. Today we were tackling our first Bond, James Bond film, because very notably, very famously, James Bond has a cocktail, like a signature cocktail, and well, he has a signature cocktail of a martini, shaken not stirred. But it seems like he has like a signature cocktail beyond that in every Bond movie as well. And it's taken us this long to get here. But today we are celebrating the 20th anniversary of one of the best. Casino Royale.
Casino Royale, indeed. And it's funny because when we first thought of this idea of Drink the Movies, this was on the list of, one of the first movies to cover, and we just didn't do it. And I'm really
Big
excited that we
Lebowski,
didn't.
James Bond, and then what?
Right, that should have been it. But we didn't do it. But I'm really glad that we waited till now because it has been 20 years since this film came out. Can you believe that? Because I feel real
No,
old thinking about that.
I
Um,
feel I feel even older when I watched it the other day and I saw Daniel Craig looking good then, still looking good now, and I look at myself 20 years on, but that's beside the point. I'm no James
yeah,
Bond, I guess.
I mean, yeah, and M, like Judy Dench. Oh my gosh, there's so many like amazing things about this film. It's arguably my favorite of all the Bond films of all time.
Okay.
And we can hash that out if you think I'm wrong, that's totally fine. But I'm going to stand by it. I'd forgotten how cool this movie was, so I'm really glad that we're going to revisit it. And we're going to revisit the classic cocktail, which if anybody has seen this film at all, they're going to know what it is. They might not know what's in it because I don't know if you remember the scene, but he says it real fast. I actually thought
hmm
he was talking
hmm
about putting something over rice and not over ice the first time. This was before Michaela did a lot of cocktails in 2006. So I was like, there's a rice cocktail? What the heck? Anyway, we're going to talk about all that. So let's take a quick break and we'll come back and make the very famous Vesper Martini. So Brian, I had to score the internet. I had to look high and low for this recipe. I'm kidding. I didn't. It's everywhere.
It's
It
not
is
over
it is
rice.
It's not over rice. It is over ice because that makes sense because it's a martini. It's not a sake or whatever. I don't know what I was thinking in 2006, but I very clearly remember being like, that's interesting. It's such a strange, that sounds so weird. All right. No, and then everybody in the scene orders one,
That's true.
except for the American guy, Jeffrey Wright,
Jeffrey
I
Wright,
believe.
no,
Oh,
no fruit in his, he says.
no
Yeah.
fruit in his.
I
Keep the
mean, in
fruit.
fairness, he orders this cocktail, and he had just told Eva Green's character, Vesper Lind, to wear this dress so she would distract everyone in the whole room. So how are you expected to like remember the ingredients that are in this thing? Order something more simple, James Bond.
Right. Well, even he like yeah, he forgets that he's like the big blind. He has to like buy in. The guy has to remind him. And Lashif, who's our baddie, he has to remind everybody to play cards, that we're actually there to play poker instead of order this drink and look at Vesper's amazing purple dress.
That's right,
Yeah.
yeah. So what we were making today is, of course, the Vespa Martini. Apparently, we pronounce the Martini Vespa, even though we pronounce Vesperland Vesper. But I digress. Go ahead and make one of these up. We'll order it the same way James Bond does: 3 parts of gin, 1 part of vodka, and a half part of Quina Lillet. Right, so it's a parts cocktail. You can make it as big or as small as you want. You could use ounces. That's the easiest way to do it. But I think that's a little bit big for a martini here. That is a lot of booze. So I'm gonna go with like uh 3/4 of an ounce as my part. So basically we're gonna go for like 2¼ ounces of the gin. Gordon's is just a traditional London dry gin. That's probably going to be your best bet here, a London dry gin, something like that, nice and clean, easy. Something like that, and then 3/4 of an ounce of vodka. I believe Absolute is what he orders, or at least that's the one that's mentioned in the book that this was based off of that original James Bond book. So like 3/4 of an ounce of vodka there, and then your half part. It's going to be roughly like a third-ish of an ounce of Aquino Lillet, except womp womp. You can't get that because they stopped making it in 1986. So we've got some options here, Michaela. You can use Lillet Blanc, which is what I used. I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that's probably what you used too, because I know we're both big fans of that one. Um, so I was looking at a list here on Thrillist, and it says to recreate the Kino Lillet, the best way is to use Lillet Blanc and a dash or two of Angostura bitters, because apparently Kino Lillet was a pretty bitter. It had a lot of quinine in it there, that one. So you can use that one. You can use Koki Americano, which is pretty easy to find. There's like some reserve Lillettes, which might be a little bit closer to that one. But yeah, you're looking for like some sort of super aromatic, delicious, expensive little thing to put in your cocktail there.
There you are. Yeah, and I actually have the Coqui Americano. I have the Lillet Blanc. I think I might I might break my rule and do a tasting, maybe like a flight, like a martini flight with all three of the options.
Okay, all
Lillet
right.
Blanc with or without Angostura bitters, and then with the Coqui Americano because I have that. That is
Michaela's
a
going to
rule that
have
I
a three
usually
martini lunch right now, is what she's going to do, and I'm going to silence my phone as we finish this
Yeah,
episode.
that's all we need is Michaela drunk texting everyone how much she loves them. It could be worse. I mean, it could be worse, but
That's true. That's true.
we will say this as with all martinis, our martinis are like eyeballs. One is too few, three is too many, two is just right. Don't break that rule. If you're going to drink, drink responsibly because this is a bit boozy. Now, when you tried this, you used Lillet Blanc, and what were your thoughts?
I think that this is pretty good. The Lillet Blanc is pretty aromatic. It has a lot of like floral notes. It is a little almost has like this citrusy bits, and then I should have mentioned in the Vespa Martini we're going to garnish it with like a lemon peel. So it
Mm.
definitely accentuates those kind of notes. It's pretty good. It's really stiff. It has a little bit more sweetness than what might be considered like a modern like dry martini, which is pretty light on the dry vermouth. But this was nice. I actually like a dry martini that's not bone dry, so I'll usually use a little bit more dry vermouth than most people would, or like a lot of people would, or even like bars will make it. I appreciate that because I think that florality is nice. I think that it kind of like softens the edges, especially if you're using something like a Gordon's gin, which is pretty juniper heavy. There in that London dry style, it kind of softens that a little bit and makes something, just absolutely delicious. And then once you have like one sip of this, like just like James Bond, you're going to be on the hook for Vespas for life. So 100% with them right there. And then yeah, these start going down real good. So like a three martini lunch is something that might happen. You have to be careful, especially keep your head about you when you're trying to win all of England's money back and not lose it. So
Right, exactly. Yeah, no, for sure. Well, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I echo your thoughts. I think it's pretty great. If you like a martini and you haven't had one of these, it is pretty easy to make. It's nice to have it on hand. It's a fun extra boozy extra boozy martini, and I do think it's a really nice alternative to just a martini with a twist of lemon, right? That's pretty common. You'd get a martini and you'd either get it with an olive or like a onion or a lemon twist. And this is really nice because it's kind of like that, but it's I don't know, it's just much more elevated to me. It's got a lot more layers to it, um, as you said. So.
yeah, seems like something good to drink when you're wearing a tuxedo and playing cards and uh, Montenegro there. So let's do this, Michaela. Let's go ahead and mix up another one of the. You're going to mix up three of these, I guess. I'm just going to do one myself. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back to chat about one of the great Bond films of them all, Casino Royale. We'll be right back.
Your file shows no kills, Bond. But to become a double O, it takes two.
How did you die?
Your contact? Not well.
You needn't worry. The second is...
Yes. Considerably.
Spoiler warning for 2006's Casino Royale. If you've not seen this film, we're going to spoil a lot of things and it's going to ruin it for you. So, Do yourself a favor. Press pause on this. Go watch Casino Royale. Go get some Lillet Blanc. Make yourself a Vesper Martini. You might want to make three. It maybe, maybe not. But then you're going to come back and we're going to chat about it. And you're not going to be sad that we spoiled one of the best Bond movies of all time, Casino Royale.
That's true. I mean, I guess you know that Daniel Craig must do okay because he comes back for three more installments there. So I don't know, but it is fun because it's the start of Bond. I think this is the second telling of that story, but we're going to get into all that stuff here in a second. This released in 2006. Happy 20th birthday, Casino Royale, and this was directed by Martin Campbell, who actually helped someone else get their start as Bond. He directed GoldenEye there. So Pierce Brosnan got his start with Martin Campbell, and now Daniel Craig is getting his start with Martin Campbell. Speaking of Daniel Craig, he is the new double O agent, James Bond. His boss M is played by Judi Dench. Eva Green is an accountant with access to the British pocketbook, Vesper Lind, and the not quite so good at poker, Le Chiffre, is played by Mads Mikkelsen. So, Mikhail, this is like the second telling of this, and it holds true to the book. I was doing a little bit of reading. I wasn't like getting super into the weeds on this, but apparently this is pretty like true to the book. I'm assuming the Texas Hold'em part probably was not. I don't know. I never read the book for sure, but I know that was a super popular thing in the early 2000s right there. So I'm guessing that's where that came in. But yeah, I mean it's pretty fun. It's a pretty fun movie. We get introduced to Daniel Craig. We get to see his rise like into being a double O agent. We get to see his fall into being James Bond. I guess kind of at the end of the film. We'll talk about more of that there. But when this came out, was this something that was important to you? Do you like James Bond? Did you watch James Bond? Were you just like more James Bond? What was the deal in 2006?
So I actually remember the day that I saw this film. I saw
Okay.
this film in San Francisco, and it was the week of Thanksgiving. And I was with a gentleman named Robert. Robert, wherever you are, hope you're okay. I'll never forget that fateful night because at the end of it, we drove right through the Tenderloin District, not realizing it was the Tenderloin District, and we saw a lot of things that we probably were not supposed to see. But I remember this very well because this was
Your
my
Texas
second
eyes were
James
not
Bond.
prepared for the Tenderloin
I was
District. I
not.
know.
I wasn't prepared for a lot of things. The chicken bone. Oh, the chicken bone. Anyway, they that this was my second James Bond because I grew up on Pierce Brosnan, right? So
Mhm,
GoldenEye
mhm.
was actually the very first Bond film that I saw in the theaters, and I thought that
Okay.
that was super cool. And so I was, kind of how I think people feel about the Doctor in the Doctor Who series,
Okay.
where we get a new James Bond, and it's like I don't know if I'm going to like them. What if they suck? They're not going to be any good? Everyone has their favorite of all of the six James Bonds or whatever. So
Mhm.
this I remember because it absolutely blew me away. And in the opening sequences, it absolutely blew me away. And it just makes a statement in like the first 5 minutes that this is going to be real, real good. And buckle in because it is definitely, I think, the most action-packed of all of the Bond films. Maybe I'm wrong, but to me, it just keeps going. And like now that I'm older, I'm like, I need a minute. I need to calm down because the poor guy like goes from one like person trying to kill him to another person to another person. It just doesn't end.
Yeah, I don't know that this is any more or less action-packed than any of the other James Bond films, which are have kind of their James Bond formula that they follow. So I think that that's probably true, but it's definitely a little grittier, a little darker, a little slower paced, I think, in a lot of ways than the Pierce Brosnan ones, which were very over the top, kind of flashy. I remember seeing GoldenEye in the movie theater, but I don't remember seeing this in the movie theater. I think I probably didn't see it until it was out on some sort of video there in 2006. That would have made sense. But I mean, I was excited enough. Like, I like James Bond, and I used to watch him growing up. My dad and I would watch James Bond a lot because James Bond was one of the things that would be like on like the Sunday like movie matinee kind of thing. So we always kind of watched growing up James Bond there at the house. So I was excited for it, but I wasn't like, oh my gosh, you new James Bond. I was a Star Wars kid, not a James Bond kid, I guess, there to that end. So let's talk about the movie a little bit. I don't want to get like into the weeds on this at all because this is a spy thing, and if you've followed along with Drink the Movies now for 271 episodes, you know that spy things can get a little tricky to keep all the details on. So we're gonna keep this pretty surface level here as we celebrate the new James Bond. So let's start kind of with that opening scene, which is really great. It's kind of on one hand, it's like this cold, open, kind of like actiony bits, which is pretty tried and true of James Bond. Usually have some big, like adventurous, like action set piece at the beginning where he's carrying out some mission and escapes by like the skin of his teeth. Like that's kind of like the traditional Bond opening. But here, this one's different. We're in black and white, which is pretty cool. It's has like this crazy amount of film grain. I don't know if that was true then. I don't know if that's like the HD like upscaling now that we get to see, or if it's just how like crystal clear like our TVs are now. But I'm like, I can see every pore on Daniel Craig's face as I'm watching this thing. Um, but we're in is it like Prague, I think, there, and he's like sat down with this guy. It's this rogue agent. He's coming in and they're having like this conversation, right? And he's talking. He's like, "Oh, you're an MI6 guy." He's like, "If you want to be a double O, he's like, you have to have killed two people or something like that." And then it goes like kind of this like parallel thing where we're seeing like flashback of Daniel Craig's James Bond killing his first guy, to having this conversation and then killing his second guy. Which bad news for you, guy. That's you.
Yeah, that's you. And it is considerably easier the second time around because the first one, they basically tear apart an entire bathroom. I didn't know that a human could get hit on the head by
That's some movie
that many
magic.
toilet
I cannot.
pieces. I was
I
like,
got knocked out watching it.
yeah, yeah. It was like this was a bit much, but I was there for it. I still loved it.
There
I
for
think
it.
the choice for it to be black and white was such a cool move too, because at the end of that sequence, you get that famous James Bond bullet kind of barrel looking thing where he's
Hmm.
pointed and shoots, and Chris Cornell does the music in the opening act. I know your name. It's so good. It's very like literally remember being like,
It's
this is going to be amazing.
it's
And
my
it moves.
name. You know my name.
You know my
Carry on.
name.
You keep talking about the music. I have some thoughts on the music.
You you have some thoughts on the movie? I really just um I liked the way, and again, this was my second Bond, so I'd only seen
Hmm.
like maybe three Bond films, like really seen them. So I don't know if this is normal, but it seems pretty normal where the opening sequence has, some famous song or a new song
Hmm.
specifically for
Yep.
it by someone famous, and it's always this weird like montage of what is sort of gonna be, a part of the film. So like there are flying queens of hearts and aces of spades, and there's all sorts of
Hmm.
crazy stuff happening. And I really liked that. I really like that. And I think the song in this instance, it's not my favorite of all the Bond songs by any stretch, but I liked how it ends. And the song ends and the way that the montage kind of finishes out and starts up with another crazy uh, chase that lasts
Oh
like,
yeah.
I don't know, 15 whole minutes. It's crazy.
It's a long chase. It's a long chase. Yeah, I want to touch on the song here. Yeah, Chris Cornell does it. I am a white guy in my 40s, so I'm required by law to think Chris Cornell is great, and I absolutely do. And if I heard the song on the radio, I would also think that it's a pretty good song. I love the montage. You mentioned it, Michaela, there because we're getting it's all like this casino like imagery kind of things. And yeah, that's one of the James Bond things is like this opening montage is meant to like allude to like the title and kind of like the theme of the movie. And the song I think to some end does that. And I think that the song sounds good, but I think just like tonally it's so like different than the rest of the movie. Like I just don't think that it fits like with like the tone of the movie like to some end. And I think that always just like it starts and I'm just like whoa, because we just had like this super quiet like black and white James Bond, and then it's like here Chris Cornell's just gonna rock and roll like at a super high tempo, and then we're gonna go back to being like this like slow burn of like a James Bond like growth kind of a thing. And like I just like tonally it just doesn't work for me. Like I said, if I heard
Yeah.
the song on the radio, I would be like, this is a pretty good song, but like in the with the in the context of this movie, I don't care for it.
No. Well, that's fair. That's fair. I will say, I think the one before this was Die Another Day by Madonna. And so,
Mm,
and
hmm.
that
Hmm.
I was like, ooh, I love that song, but not for James, but not for the film. I thought it was very much that. So I was probably just pretty excited that it wasn't that, to be honest.
Hmm.
But the first scene after this is like this 15-minute. I mean, I had to go back and like time it because I was like, this guy who he chases, I hope, is he a professional parkourer?
It
I've
is, yeah.
been,
He's
yeah,
credited as like parkour guy or something.
Because he was insane. So they are in Madagascar, right? Um,
They're in Madagascar. Yeah, Le Chiffre goes and talks to this guy in Uganda, I think, and is like, "Hey, give me your money, I'll protect it." And then he tries to like pull like some sort of like short stock sale on this thing that like sets up how Le Chiffre has to have this poker game in the end. So there you go. That's addressed. And then yeah, he goes to Madagascar to find like this. He's like a war. I don't even know who this guy is because it doesn't really do a very good job of saying who this guy is. But yeah, he's a parkour champion for sure. If you want to do some cool parkour, watch this guy.
I mean, I just wanna go over. I know we don't want to talk about this forever because this is a 2.5 hour long movie, and it'll be a 2.5 hour long podcast if we do that. But I mean, he goes through like a construction site, and I don't mean like a tall. He does that too, but he literally goes through the construction site where there is he's got like a bulldozer that goes through things, and there is all sorts of concrete flying, and I loved that part. I thought it was so cool the way they did it. And then I did a little bit of research on how they decided to create that effect. And I thought that was really cool. Then they're on top of this skyrise. They are literally like 100 feet in the air fighting, and the shots are amazing. I don't know how they did that. And then they go down and they're running through sand. There's this whole other montage where they're in this concrete building going up and down, and then they end up in like a the French ambassador's space where
Yeah, in the
everything is getting
embassy.
shot to
Yeah.
heck. Like, I mean, it is insane. And every time they show the guy, okay, the bad guy, the parkour dude, he's just like breathing heavy. He's like, and I'd be like, I'm dead. Just
He's
kill me.
running.
Just find me. Just arrest me already. Like,
He's running hard. I guess he's a bomb maker, which is bad. I do like James Bond is there with like another agent, and James Bond is like, Stop putting your finger up to your ear, you bozo." It's like, was it like this guy's like first day? Like, who is that? He's not another double O. It's it's like I was there, like trying to find the guy. What are we even talking about? And then the guy takes off, right? And he's like a parkour champion. Not only can he build bombs, he can also do some parkour stuff, which is fun. I mean, you get like this crazy chase scene, and I'm about to come back to loving James Bond here in just a second, but I'm like, at some point I'm like, this is pretty ridiculous. Like the guy's like so far ahead of James Bond, and then James Bond is like, I'm gonna get on this very slow moving bulldozer that is like super tall. It's gonna take me like a minute to like climb up on top of it and figure out how to start this thing and then chase this guy down. No, because this guy is like 3 counties away by the time that happens. But it goes
yeah.
in and it crushes. And then if I'm James Bond, I'm not. On a side note, if in case anyone was wondering, I definitely have no secret identity there. I would watch this guy climbing up on top of like this crane thing. I'll be like, I'm just going to leave that guy up there. Where is he going to go? He is on top of a literal crane. What's going to happen? I'm just going to stand down below, wait for him to come down, and then I'll
Or
get back
fall
to
down, like one
being
or the
James
other.
Bond. Oh my gosh, that's so crazy. But yeah, they get there. It like shoots the place up. M is super mad. She's like, "What are you doing? You're not keeping your cover very well." And he's like, "I should have shot out the cameras. You're right."
You're right. I should have done that. I love our introduction to M in this film. And this was same director, right? Pierce Brosnan director. And so it's interesting to me how, some of these characters change over time, and
Mhm.
some of them don't. Like we got a new M, right? With Pierce Brosnan, we got the Dame Judi Dench, who is amazing. I love her introduction to this because if you did not know who she was and what she was about in her opening sentence, where she's like, "Christ, I miss the Cold War." She's so mad. And then he shows up at her house and he's like, "Hey, sorry, I should have shut out the cameras." But this guy, like, I did find this thing. There's this thing called Ellipsis that he's a part of. He's a bomb maker. I think there's a bomb that's going to go off and it's going to be huge and terrible and we don't know why. And let me go look for it. And she's like, "Not on your life, buddy." And then, he does it anyway, because he's
Mhm.
able to track this text to this beautiful club, this beautiful resort. Um, it looks like something out of a magazine. It's so pretty, and I love the 2006 version of being able to trace stuff because
Right.
it is so neat. And they take some really good time trying to like piece this together, and that was one of the things that I thought was really cool about this. In
Mhm.
general, being an adaptation from a book, right? James Bond was a book. There's a series of books out there. And that's one of the things that I think we forget as audience members, that this is actually something that made a lot of sense, something that was very deep and an enriched story. It wasn't just, hey, there's a bad guy and we need to go kill them. It was
Hmm.
like this espionage, Cold War, like driven, like we got to fight terrorism kind of things. In that sense. And I thought that that was really cool that they really tried. It was a long film, but they really tried to do the details. And so I liked
Hmm.
that because um, I had not remembered why he got to that club and crawled out of the ocean looking like he did. I just remember that he did it. Um, yeah.
Forgot about that. Why is this woman riding a horse right by? Who's
You know
gonna
why she was
come into
riding a
play
horse,
here?
dude? They had her riding a horse for a very specific reason. I do not have to explain it to
I mean,
you.
I have some ideas about that, but yeah, yeah. So he turns up, and yeah, it does a really good job of like harkening back to it, like you said, because James Bond, the novel, I think came out in the 50s. I think I don't know if that's right or not, but it's like this, you know, Cold War like spy espionage thriller, right? It wasn't like this like big like action adventure kind of thing, which I think is kind of where like Pierce Brosnan's Bond got to, kind of at some point. So you know, really getting back to the roots of that, and it does a really good job there. He goes to the Bahamas. He is there. He's trying to track this down. He sees a very pretty lady in a very pretty car. So check one and check two for the James Bond, bingo card if you're playing along at home. And he goes and he's talking to this guy. He beats him at a hand of poker, wins the car. Sneaks the girl off and gets some information, right? She is like, "Oh, that my husband is flying to Miami to meet this guy who James Bond knows as this other bomb maker." And it turns out that Le Chiffre took the money from that warlord. What he did was he put the money into the stock. It's like this whole stock thing, but he's going to blow up this plane. That stock was going to tank. He's going to make like a boatload of cash. That was the plan, but James Bond gets there and foils it. And that's a really fun actiony scene there too, when he's like chasing down like the plane, like trying to get out through there. It was really weird. It was really like a time of like 2006 because it goes to like that Body World exhibit. Do you remember that? Like that was a
Oh,
huge
yeah.
deal. Like travel in the world. It's like some like German like science exhibit where it was like people's like cadavers that were like flayed down so you could see like the musculature and like the skeletal system and like the all the like nerves and all that stuff in the human body. So it was like all that is like taking place through there as he's like finding this guy in Miami, and all's well that ends well because you thwart the plane, and then you get invited to go play poker with the guy who's trying to blow up the plane. So win-win.
Win, win. Uh, so he goes, right? And M is just all sorts of mad, at this point. She puts this thing in his arm and says, "We'll know
James
where
Bond
you
straight out
are."
of college. He's like, I'm ready to be CEO, lady. She's like, what are you talking about?
Right. Yeah, exactly. But one thing that I thought was really interesting here too is the girl that he kind of leaves behind, leaves in a lurch to go and chase her husband, who's a bad guy who ends up dying. Right?
Hmm. Hmm.
She is pulled. Like I love this scene. She's pulled from the ocean, and she had been tortured and killed by someone we don't know who. And James Bond seems like he doesn't really care about that. He's very stone cold, and this was a person that he like with it days before he was making out with, and she was a human, and he doesn't seem to care. And that's when we start really figuring out like this James Bond is much more ruthless than I felt in
Yeah.
my young years that like a Pierce
Well,
Brosnan was, or even like a Sean Connery was. This is a
well,
much
because
grittier James Bond, and he's if you're gonna be the collateral damage, that's just how that's gonna go.
yeah, especially because M is like, this was a person, and this is your fault. You did this to her, and James Bond's like, well, got what I needed out of her. So
Yep, yep. And I think that that really lays the next part of the film out really beautifully. It sets the stage up because they're going to give, it's like a $10 million buy-in because the Schiff can do the math and he needs 10 people, $10 million each. It's $100 million, give or take, a $5 million buyback if you somehow lose all that money and you want to do some more.
want to keep going? Yep.
Want to keep going. That's how that works. But somebody had to fund this. And so we meet Vesper Lind on his train. She's sitting there and she is the money, every penny of it.
Every penny of it. Yeah, absolutely. Vesper Lind is there, played by Eva Green. She comes on and they have a little bit of a chat, kind of sizing each other up. She's like, "This is a terrible idea." She's like, "I don't think you're probably very good at this. I don't know if you're good at poker or not, but this is a lot of money. This is like from the government. Like this is like people's like retirement funds. So we're like giving you this money to play a game of poker. This seems like a terrible idea." And he's like, "Don't worry about it, lady. I've been a double O now for like 4 days. I got it. I got it. Don't even worry about it." So they get there, they get to Montenegro, which is really cool. I'm assuming this is a real place in Montenegro. It looks awesome. It's like this like weird walled city kind of thing, like this medieval town, and there's a giant fancy casino there, which is pretty cool. And they get there and they like settle in, right? And they have to like play the part, right? So James Bond is there to win this money at this poker game. Vesper Lind is there to like play act as his like love interest, is why she's there like alongside of him, and they're going to go and they get ready and they go down and start playing this poker game. And this is probably my favorite part, like, and I think this is why a lot of people like this James Bond film above all or most other James Bond films, because the casino, like the card playing section of this is such like a slow burn, and it's so like your nerves are going like a mile a minute. You're like what's going to happen? I mean, obviously, no, this is James Bond. He's going to be the victor of his own movie. Like you understand that he's probably going to win this poker game. But there's so much like high stakes here. There's so much like tension and stress to it. The way they shot it, the way they deliver it. Mads Mikkelsen is so incredible at his craft. Like you just love like every line of dialogue that he says in the whole movie. You're just like on the edge of your seat for. But they end up playing this game out. But fortunately, when you're playing poker, you have to take some breaks, and in those breaks, you get to be attacked by and kill some more of Le Chiffre's dudes. So, or I
Yeah,
guess they're the warlords dudes, I guess. So,
they are the warlords dudes, and we don't know exactly why, right? But they end up in the stairwell. It's pretty violent. Certainly violent for Vesper. You know,
yeah,
she's never seen any of this stuff before. She's not a double O. She's not really an MI6. She's just an accountant, kind of, right? Um,
right.
and James Bond tells her what to do, and then he goes back and he wins what all he needs to win that night. But when he gets back to the hotel, we see a very different side of him, and it is probably one of my favorite scenes. I love this movie so much, so it's hard to pick. But she is still in her beautiful dress that he has picked out for her, because there's this moment where they both pick each other's clothes out, and it's really awesome. It's really cool because the banter between them, they obviously really, there's a palpable connection there. But she's sitting in this shower like freak, like totally like curled up like a little child, and he just comes over and he doesn't say much. He just puts his arm around her, he puts his hand on her head, and she's talking about how, because she helped, um she feels that she has blood on her hands, because there's this moment in the struggle where she has to decide to help James Bond or not. And when she
Hmm.
does, James Bond does the rest. But she like helps disarm this guy who was absolutely going to kill them both. So it's not like she did anything in cold blood, but she's not used to this. This isn't her thing. This is
Hmm.
very much James Bond thing. So he like does this moment where he like takes her hands and he like kisses them. He almost like sucks on them a little bit because she feels like she has blood on her hands, and he's like, "It's me. It's blood on my hands. It's not you." And it's all done with like minimal words. In the time that I'm explaining it, it's already happened. But I'm telling you, it's like this really amazing moment in this movie because you see that he starts to recognize Vesper as something more than just like a conquest to like pull one up on, and more than
Hmm.
just somebody who's in charge of this money, but also like a human who has thoughts and feelings and fears and really understands the gravity of killing someone. And that's something he doesn't possess.
Yeah. Well, she's probably the first woman that's ever, told him no, right? She tells him that she's not going to give him that money. So he's going to have to go about his business and get that elsewhere, right? So we meet um, Jeffrey Wright's character. He's playing a CIA agent, I think, or something. He's playing some sort
Yeah,
of agent, some American
Langley, I believe
agent
that's
there.
CIA.
So he's there. He's like, we'll front you the money. The Americans will give you the money, but we get the credit for arresting this guy. He's like, I don't care, whatever, that's fine. I just want to play some poker. So they do. They play the poker. He ends up winning. Of course he does. And all is well that ends well, right? You get the little case that has your password in it that you put in there. That's good. So him and Vesper, they're gonna take off, right? Except too bad. No, you're not really going to take off because you're going to get captured, and then released somehow for unknown reasons that are about to become very clear. Because as you're checking out of this poker game, you're going to get taken. Le Chiffre is like, bro, you blew up my poker game. Just leave me alone. Let me have my $100 million. So I'm gonna settle my debts. That's gonna be great. Except you didn't do that. So now I need your password to all this cash. So I'm gonna tie you up naked and torture you with a very scary looking piece of rope on the
So
end of that. But it's okay because it happens for a while, and then James Bond is fine. He's fine.
yeah, I mean, he's fine. I gotta tell you, I never, I hadn't seen a lot in 2006, but when he takes that chair and he starts cutting the hole out, I'm like, oh no, this is gonna go real bad. And I love Mads Mikkelsen is like he's such a triumphantly wonderful actor. And I think this was the very first time I had really seen him in anything where he was like a main character. He's
Hmm.
so awesome. And I love this scene because he is explaining how, like, I'm not gonna like pull out your fingernails or do anything crazy. I'm just gonna have you sit in this chair naked and I'm gonna use a rope where you shouldn't, and you will end up telling me stuff. And what I love
Hmm.
about it is that it does look very painful. It's not, this is a moment where we see James Bond scared. And he's scared because he can hear Vesper screaming in the background. We have no idea what's happening to her. It's probably something that's not with a rope. It's probably something with something else. It's gonna be terrible. And so we hear her screaming. He like looks really like, how am I gonna get out of this? And he ends up getting rescued by some person that you only see for like 30 seconds beforehand. And you see him at the very beginning of the film. So the first time I saw this, I had no idea who that guy was. I was like, what? What just happened? Who rescued these people? Um, and I think it works to our advantage as an audience because it does leave to question, right? Vesper is let go. She's all in one piece. He's let go, and he's a little worse for wear, but he's alive. But
Hmm.
you don't really know why. You're like, that's interesting.
That's
Why
right.
were
Yeah,
they
you
left
don't.
alive?
You don't know why, but the double crosses have begun to stack up now at this point. It turns out that Felix was not that great. He's uh, double crosses James Bond there, right? Gives him up, which is not great. And then he goes and he gets released from being tortured. We find out here very shortly because he and Vesper they go. He's like recovering like at the hospital, like in this like Italian villa, which is a pretty good place to go to the hospital if you have to go to the hospital, I suppose. So they're there. The dude from the poker game comes with this briefcase and is like, type in your password and then you'll get the money. He's like, all right. So he tells Vesper to type it in. She does. So the money's there, right? So they're on vacation. He's like, I'm done being a double O. I did it. That was fun. Now I just want to be with you, Vesper Lynn. And to that I say, okay, that sounds right. So they go to Venice, which is a good place to go. Young lovers go to Venice. That's nice. The Venice scenes look beautiful. Venice is a very cool city. They're there, and we start to learn a little bit more, right? I think there's like M spills the beans and all this stuff because she's like, "Hey James, I know you're like taking a sabbatical or whatever. You put in like your 2 weeks notice or whatever you did, but like that $100 million, 100 million pounds, whatever it was, we didn't get it. We need that money, right? I know you're probably like busy." Doing stuff, you and Vesper, I get that, but we would like the British government would like their money back, please.
Right. And then he's like, huh, that's interesting. I didn't know that they'd miss it, right? And at this point, right, Vesper and him have solidly become a unit. He has confessed his total devotion, and she's gotten through all of his armor, and he's been stripped of it all, and it's very romantic and lovely for a little while. But he realizes she has gone to the bank because she was like, "Hey, we need some cash to float for the month. I'm gonna go do that, and I'll see you in like half an hour, no problem." And then he's like, well, where is this $100 million? So he calls up the Swiss guy who has no chocolates, but he does have information. And in 2006, even he can say, like, right this second, funds are being taken out of the bank in Venice. Of course, aren't you there? And he's like, oh my gosh. So he rushes over and he sees Vespa Lind, his love. She is off to meet somebody, and she's got a briefcase, probably full of cash, in her hand, and he is completely betrayed because she has double crossed him.
Yeah, she is.
And in the
She is.
meantime, an entire building decides to fall down.
a whole building
Into the
crumbles
Venice.
into Venice. Like I was watching that and like it starts to collapse and I'm just like no one seems to be that concerned that like the building is collapsing like in Venice like the people there and I'm like okay that's fine but yeah it turns out she stole the money to give to this Mr. White guy from the beginning of the movie basically that was like the purchase price to get James Bond out of this torturous situation that he'd found himself in. Do we believe that? I don't. You're up to you, I guess, to believe that if you want to believe that or not. That's kind of an interesting thought experiment to go down there as well. So that's interesting. But bad news. Get into a fight. Vesperland is going down with this building that's sinking into the canals of Venice. That's not great. And she locks herself in this elevator. There, James Bond tries to save her, but can't. She locks herself in there. She drowns, and he ends up to go on to become James Bond. I think this is meant to be kind of like the baptismal scene for James Bond because then it's at that point then that we get to know him as we know him as James Bond. One of the interesting things they do like thematically in the movie is they don't play the James Bond theme through the movie at all, like until like after this point. Because I think this is meant to indicate that he's become the James Bond that we know and love. I don't like I understand like the reasoning for that, but I will say that watching basically every time I've watched this movie, I've watched it, several times, but I do always kind of miss that theme throughout. Like I wish that there would have been like that or some sort of like homage to the theme at least a little bit. But we don't get the James Bond theme until the end, and I kind of miss it. But I understand why that decision was made,
Mm.
and it's an interesting decision for sure. But yeah, he's James Bond now, Michaela.
It's James Bond without Vespa.
He's Bond, James Bond, I guess technically.
Yeah, yeah. Um, you know, I love how we talk about all that, but of course, my favorite part about this is the fact that he is this totally unfeeling human who some person ends up breaking this rough exterior into, and he finally trusts this person, and
Mhm.
then she betrays him, and even then, when she's in the elevator and it's gone down, I don't know how they filmed this, okay, but she's like he's trying to get the door open, and she just caresses his hand, and she's like really, you could tell she is so sorry and she's so sad, but she will
Mhm.
not let him save her. She could have. And it probably, like, who knows what would have happened, right? Would he have forgiven her? Would he have like even tried to help her and like undo the mess that she has made by like betraying her country? And who
Mhm.
knows? But she would not let him because she didn't feel that she deserved it, perhaps. And so I actually really think that it's like this amazing origin story. And it to me, it's one of the best reboot slash origin stories that I've ever seen. I really love it, and I think that you're right. It's kind of this christening of who James Bond was in order to become someone who literally doesn't care about anybody and who doesn't fall in love with women. He just kind of uses them. He might like them, but he's not going to like ever trust anybody again. Like
Mhm.
he's like,
Yeah.
absolutely not. I did it one time and it almost killed me. Absolutely not. But I love the very last scene because he finally does, he goes through her phone. He goes through all this stuff after M tells him that it's obvious that she did this just to save his life, and he's
Mhm.
like whatever. But he's starting to go through his stuff, and she leaves him a note in her phone because she knows that he will find it and he will be able to like solve this mystery of who the heck is Mr. White. What is he working like? He kills Lashif because he works for an organization that paired Lashif with the terrorist in Uganda in the first place. So this
Right.
like it's a much bigger. The boat's much bigger than we
He
originally
was like a
thought.
headhunter for criminals.
Right, basically. And so you see Mr. White on this beautiful, I don't know where that place is. It looks like it's in Italy or I don't know, it's gorgeous. And he's going
Yeah,
up
it's
the
like
stairs and
Como in Italy, I think.
yeah, and he sees and James Bond shows up and he's like, my name's James Bond. And that's the first time we're like, da da da. And so
Mhm.
I don't know. Um, yeah, that's the end of it. But oh,
Yeah.
that's how it ends.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean then you have to like step back because James Bond showed like that coldness, that calculatedness, that willingness to use someone and like how much of that, like I said, was Vesper pushing back on him? How much was it that he fell in love with her? How much was it, to feel like remorse for putting her like through the situation that he did, and then ultimately when she quote unquote betrays him and pushes him back there. It seems like it pushes him back like even like further and more staunchly in that camp, right? Like his growth is like in the shape of a mountain, right? Like he gets to like this peak of growth and then immediately like crashes back down out of it to set the scale. And I mean that's certainly something you could look at the Daniel Craig run of James Bond films. They're much darker and more grounded. Like I said, a lot less fantastical than kind of the Bonds got, through the last couple of iterations of those, ultimately ending with um, whatever the last one was, which I'm totally drawing a blank of.
Oh,
Uh,
oh gosh. Goodbye, Cruel World or something. I don't
yeah,
remember.
James Bond, Goodbye, Cruel World. I believe. Oh, No Time to Die, No Time to Die. So, which kind of brings us art kind of full circle there for James Bond. So, yeah, I mean, Casino Royale is great. Yeah, I give it a little bit of shtick. I was rewatching it, and I was like, this chase scene is like like crazy insane. Like it doesn't even make any sense. But it's fun. I mean, there's like you said, a lot of good action. The set pieces are fun. It's very emotional, and like it tells James Bond's story and more of this true, kind of almost like crime noir kind of a
Mhm.
thing, which is interesting. And I think the way James Bond should be presented, James Bond isn't a superhero. He's just a flawed guy with a gun and a pretty dark outlook on life, I think.
Yeah, yeah. No, it definitely is. Like I said, it's my favorite James Bond film of all of them. And I love the way that it kind of recreates like who James Bond is, and it gives this very real backstory. And what I
Hmm.
like about this entire group of Daniel Craig James Bond films is that it, like the next one talks a little bit more about where he came from and why he is who he is, and other people that he's met from his past. And then the next one even talks about like his childhood, and so you really get a much bigger picture of who this person, this flawed human is, instead of I'm Bond, James Bond, and I'm going to seduce you, and then I'm going to win, and and so I loved that. Yeah, this film is not perfect. It's long, I will say. I full disclosure, I
Hmm.
had no idea it
Yeah.
was 2.5 hours long. I started playing it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is. I don't remember it being this long. I don't remember it being that long because the scenes are kind of ridiculous, but they're also pretty great. And
Yeah.
I liked that. There was so much attention to detail because they needed that story. It's a really complicated story, um, and it needed that time to be told. Um,
Yeah, I needed that character building. It is pretty long, but like the first introduction of James and Vesper on that train, like that is a really long scene of them having that conversation. Those two, which I mean, there's not anything going on, right? Because they're just sitting in a train car, like having this conversation. So I mean, it's very like quiet to that end, and then the set pieces then feel pretty monumental when they happen. I love like because James Bond doesn't really have any gadgets yet. Like he's still new to the job, but there's like the defibrillator like anti-poison thing in his car. I always thought that scene was fun because he like calls him up like he's on like tech support, like how do I operate this thing, like I don't even know what it is. And like so stuff like that is like fun, but like does a good job of like fleshing out like the origin of like James Bond like gadget department or whatever. So
yeah,
like that sounds pretty cool. So
yeah. No, it's real good. It was real good, and it stayed with me. I mean, I remember seeing this 20 years ago, and I remember being fairly distraught when I left the theater, just in time to get into a rented Mustang and drive up the
oh
middle of Tenderloin without knowing that it was in the middle of Tenderloin. And yeah, it was crazy. But this movie like holds. I have a lot of love for this because it was the introduction for a whole new world of James Bond and a much grittier, in my opinion, a lot more like realistic look at what I mean. Not realistic in the terms of like because he's still kind of superhero-ish and the chase scenes are insane, but like realistic in that he had dimension to him, and this
mhm.
was really, in my opinion, the one James Bond that does. Now, other people can feel differently, and that's fine. but maybe it was because of the timing, because I was in my early 20s when I saw this. So,
I say
but yeah,
especially coming off of the Brosnan ones, which I guess would be like our Bond, I guess, kind of
yeah.
obviously before this one, the one we would have like cut our teeth on James Bond wise. So, yeah, so that is Casino Royale. Happy 20th birthday! And then Daniel Craig, of course, went on to reprise that role three more times over the next 16 years, I think. The last one came out in 2022, I believe. So, so there you go. We'll see what Amazon does with James Bond now that they're at the helm of the James Bond IP. So we'll see. Is it going to be TV? Is it going to be movies? Who's going to be the next James Bond? Those are the questions we want to know the answers to, but we don't have them here. But we do have some good cocktails and we have some good content out there. So if you're liking the podcast, drop us a line. Let us know what your favorite James Bond is. Let us know if you have a good martini recipe. Let us know who your favorite Bond was, your favorite Bond theme song. Let us know any of that stuff. You can do that on our social medias. It's at Drink the Movies on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. If you want to see pictures of the cocktails we're making, recipes, episode recaps, links to our stuff, all that can be found on our website. It's www.drinkthemovies.com. Go there, see pictures of a cocktail, make up a cocktail, and then if you decide you want to support the podcast further, there's going to be a link on there to our Patreon. It's patreon.com/Drink the Movies. That's the best place to go and show us some support. We do fun stuff on there, hangouts, bonus episodes, cocktail chats, behind the scenes stuff, all that stuff happens over there. Again, patreon.com/Drink the Movies, and we appreciate our patrons so much. Michaela, we're into some new movies here this next week, assuming we can keep our calendars clear. We're gonna be separate. So we'll be having to try to coordinate these movies, but we're going to do our best because there's a lot of really good stuff coming out this summer. So people are going to want to follow along. Where can they do that?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, anywhere where Spotify podcasts are supported and distributed. We do two drops a week here at Drink the Movies. We talk about everything that's going on in the box office in our lobby bar, which usually drops on Mondays, and then the deep dives, like the one you just listened to. If you are interested in video games at all, please go check out Brian's Drink the Video Games because it's amazing. It's really cool. And he does a really good job with it. We mix cocktails and video games, and sometimes there's a crossover for movies because the video games turn into a movie and vice versa. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, we love our listeners. We're really grateful to everybody that puts our two favorite things together, movies and cocktails, or anything in cocktails, really. So thank you so much for all of your support because it really helps us get all the Drink the Movies, Drink the Video Games stuff out there.
Absolutely. So that is going to wrap it up here for episode 271, Casino Royale. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time on
Drink
Drink
the
the
Movies.
Movies. Movies. Drink the Movies.